Hey friends, welcome back to She's At It Again, and today we're making oatmeal raisin cookies. I've browned my butter on the stovetop. I filmed that, so hopefully we can incorporate there somehow. Browning butter is not a difficult task at all. It's just that you kind of have to keep an eye on it. As soon as you see those milk solids, those little pieces, they kind of look like sand in the bottom, they start browning. So you have to keep your heat a little bit on the low side. You don't want to turn it up high at all because it will over brown and you'll get that really bad taste. So just keep an eye on it until you see the bottom of it kind of look like when you're frying chicken and some of the flour goes to the bottom. That's what it reminds me of. I feel like I'm a miner panning for gold because I start shaking the pan toward the end of it to just see if that's what I'm seeing on the bottom of it. The brown bits start moving. So it's all done. I've set that aside. It is no longer heating up, so we're good with that. I want to show you this first. I have, y'all know I don't use that much sugar, but I have a lot of brown sugar in my pantry because when I find it on sale, I just buy it because I know I'm going to need it eventually. This could be used to build a house with. It is so hard as a rock. Oh, there's our oven ready. But I'm going to take this. I've seen this hack several times and I've never tried it. And although you risk contaminating your brown sugar with gluten, if you have somebody that's gluten-free, you don't want to use this particular sugar. You need to keep it wrapped in something else so it won't touch the sugar. But I don't have a loaf of bread, so I don't have a piece of bread. I mean, I have sourdough bread in the refrigerator, but it's really not that moist, you know, as far as like Wonder Bread or one of those store-bought breads. I just don't have store-bought bread. I'll put it like that. So I'm going to take one of these rolls that I made recently, one of these little crescent rolls. I'm going to put it in the bag, and they say you can leave it for just a few hours, and it'll soften the sugar up. But I'm telling you, it's going to be miracle bread. We will call it Wonder Bread if it does make this soft, because this stuff is hard as a rock. I will check on it periodically and see what we have, and I'll have to leave it out so I can remember to check on it, but I'm going to put this aside. I'll try to video that when we open it up and see if we have a surprise and we have softened brown sugar. So let's get started with our recipe. The first thing we want to do is just in a regular bowl or some kind of container, put 1 cup of plain flour. This is just plain, unbleached, organic flour. To that, we're going to add 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Not baking powder, but baking soda. So 1/2 teaspoon of that. Swish it around a little bit. We're going to set that aside. Flour is usually the last thing you add to cookies just because you don't want the gluten to build up once it hits the liquid and make your cookies less than desirable texture. All right, in a larger mixing bowl. Now you don't need a hand mixer or even a stand mixer or anything for this. So in a larger bowl, get your spatula ready. You're going to put your 4 tablespoons of browned butter. This is the butter that we just browned. Take a look at that. Kind of see those milk solids floating around in there, and they're brown. I'm making these cookies to our church family's asked to volunteer to provide food for a fundraiser pickleball tournament for a it's a fundraiser for a company that we're familiar with. They help foster families in acclimating to foster care system. So pickleball tournament to raise funds for that. But I'm making oatmeal raisin cookies, so we're going to be packaging these in individual bags. So we want to make them a little bit bigger than what we normally would. Not normally for me, because I love me an oatmeal raisin cookie. The bigger the better, but these will be just the right size for people who really love oatmeal raisin cookies. All right, I'm going to turn my other camera on here. So we have our 4 tablespoons of browned butter in here. We're going to add 1/4 of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, That's what this is in here. Once the cinnamon hits that oil or that butter, it starts having a really nice aroma because it kind of wakes up that fragrance. And that smells really nice. To that, we're going to add a half a cup of oil. Now, I'm just going to use extra virgin olive oil. This is Members Mark Organic Extra Virgin Olive Oil. So half a cup of oil. Give that a stir. To that, we're going to put in there 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. Now this is my hard as rock brown sugar, but I chunked it up into kind of a coarse sand. So we're going to hope for the best with this. So 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. If you have soft brown sugar like it's supposed to be, pack it down well. So this is packed brown sugar. That's how you measure sugar when it has a tendency to make air pockets in there. So just pack it down real well. Give that a stir. So 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar and then half cup of regular sugar. This is unbleached sugar. It comes under the name of Zulka is the brand name, and I find it at our big box store, and I love it. I have organic sugar for some things, but this is non-GMO, unbleached, real cane sugar, not sugar beets. So I'm a big fan of Zulka sugar. I'm going to try to get most of these little brown sugar chunks out of there. I'm telling you what, that is like chopping up concrete. And all brown sugar is regular sugar, like the Zulka, and molasses. That's all it is. So after I run out of brown sugar, I'm not buying brown sugar again. I'm just making my own as I go, and I'm not going to make it up ahead of time either because it has a tendency to do this and get hard. So when I see a recipe that calls for brown sugar, I'll just use brown sugar plus molasses. So I like dark brown sugar, so I would add between 1 and 2 tablespoons of molasses for every cup of sugar and just go with the recipe at that point. It's not that much more effort to use the two separately. And I always have molasses on hand. All right, to this, we're going to add, I have an egg yolk, just an egg yolk. I took the white and put it in the fridge. And then a regular egg. So we have 1 whole egg and then 1 extra egg yolk. Give those a stir. This recipe is courtesy of America's Test Kitchen. And if you've never seen one of their videos, they're so comprehensive. Very well explained. I'll put it like that. So sometimes you can catch their recipes on YouTube. Sometimes I think I'm subscribed to something to do with America's Test Kitchen. I'm not sure what it is. But the people that do the demonstrations on there are very, very good about explaining what they're doing. So try not to leave any streaks of egg in there, particularly the egg white. It'll tend to kind of glob up. But kind of whip it with your spatula if you can. You don't need a mixer for this. We're going to also add 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and this is my homemade vanilla that I always keep in the pantry and sometimes can't open the jar. It can be a stubborn little thing. There it goes. Let's see. I'm going to use my medicine dropper because it's easier to see what I have with that. If you have kids, you know what this is. super easy to measure with this. Okay, a full teaspoon of good vanilla. Get that all stirred in, then we're going to add our flour mixture to it. I have my oven preheated to 375. You heard that beep in the background a while ago. All right, now we're going to pour our flour mixture into it. You want everything in here moist, so don't leave any lumps of flour or dry pieces, but you just don't want to overwork it. Like, you're not kneading this. It's not bread. These smell so good when they start cooking. If you are a raisin hater, I am so sorry. You can put chocolate chips in place of the raisins here, I guess, but I just don't see a need. I just think these are fabulous. I read, I'm always reading the comments on any video I watch on YouTube, and I just get so tickled at the majority of them. And I was looking at some recipe, and it had, it was carrot cake, something, and they were putting walnuts in it, but they were not putting raisins in it. And someone commented, "Thank you for not adding raisins to that like some psychopath." And I thought that was so funny, because either you really like raisins or you really don't. And I really do like them, but I do have friends that really do not like raisins. Don't even come at them with a raisin, because they will take off running. But yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. Okay, as you can see, this is fully mixed in. And to this, we're going to add a half a cup of raisins, because I love raisins, and they are oatmeal raisin cookies. Anybody that has a gallon jar in their pantry with raisins in it, they probably love raisins. Okay, I'm going to give those a stir just to break them up a little bit, because they have a tendency to stick together sometimes. Now the last step is we're going to put 3 cups of old-fashioned oats in these. And this goes against everything I think is right when I get to this point, because I think that dough cannot handle 3 cups of oats. It just can't, but it does. So just go with me on this one. It really does. Old-fashioned oats are also known as whole oats. They're not quick oats, and they're certainly not instant oats. But I love them because they have a more hearty texture to them. I use quick oats a lot. I never use instant oats. But by far my favorite is just the rolled oats. There's a good promo for Natural Grocers. If you hadn't been in that store, it is fun. All right, I'll use my sturdier spatula. I made these a few weeks ago, and it made about 24 large cookies. And when I say large cookies, they were probably this big. And they were not thin, like, they don't flatten out when you cook them. You have to flatten these out before you bake them, because they won't do it on their own. But they were very substantial, and they were very good. And I signed up for bringing 2 dozen, so this will work out great. As long as my husband doesn't find them and think they're for us without asking. because he loves them too. You could probably work this with your hands. It's just that dry, not very sticky. And for those of you wondering, can you use a mixer with this to avoid having to stir it with a spatula? Obviously you can. I just think it's kind of cool that these are the perfect cookie to mix by hand instead of using a mixer, because it doesn't make such a huge mess and it's not that hard to stir. However, with oatmeal raisin cookies, I would not recommend making the dough, put it in the refrigerator to make cookies for later, because the oats keep absorbing the moisture, especially the whole oats like these, and you will end up with something so crumbly they don't really stick together well. So you need to use this pretty much right after you get it mixed up, which is not a problem for us. All right, going to take our baking pans, and I have parchment on these, and this is what my parchment looks like because I reuse parchment until it can't be reused anymore. Unless I'm putting something gluten-free on there, then I wash the entire pan and put down brand new parchment each time. All right, I'm going to get some water in this because when we flatten the cookies out, our hands need to be wet when we touch the cookies. All right, so this is my cookie dough spatula, and it's pretty big, but I heap it up on this, like pretty full. So kind of scoop it up like ice cream, like that. I'll let you take a look like this. We're going to drop these on there. So that is about the size of, it's bigger than a ping pong ball. It's not as big as a racquetball. But that is my best guesstimation. We'll put about a dozen on each one of our baking sheets. I'll move this camera over here so you can see better what I'm doing. I could probably roll these in a ball just as easy, scooping them out like that. The oats just keep falling off of the cookie dough. It's like working with sawdust with just a little bit of water on it. But these are so good. They really are. When I made these last time, which was the first time I'd ever made them, because it's a new recipe for me, I made them, and my husband and I both tried them because I have a secret oatmeal raisin cookie recipe that I just don't share the recipe. Everybody has a secret recipe, and that's one of mine. And we took a bite of it, and he and I both said, they're good, but I don't think they're as good as our other secret recipe. But then the longer they sat, I put them in a cookie jar, put the seal on them, and put them in the pantry, and then I went back and tried them a few days later. They were actually better. So I'm hoping that because I'm making these on Wednesday, today's Wednesday, and they won't have these at the pickleball tournament until Saturday, I think, that I'm hoping they maybe even get better as the week goes by. I always want to put my larger balls of cookie dough on the outside because that's the part that cooks the hottest. For some reason it works like that. I'm not sure why. It's not like they're touching and they're insulated in the center, but that's just how it works. Okay, I have a dozen on that pan. And don't sweat it if they're not all the same size. It really is not that big of a deal unless you have kids that will fight over the biggest one. And my answer to that is any kind of dessert that they're arguing over, if there's two kids, let one of them slice it, and then the second one gets to choose which piece they want. And I'm telling you, you've never seen such an accurate math genius as that first kid that cuts it. So you could get them to cut the cookies in half and say you can each have a half at a time. First kid cuts it, the second kid gets to choose. And that's not original with me. We used to have a minister a few years ago, and he said that that was one of the tricks he had heard about getting kids to be fair. I thought that was a pretty good idea, though. Since I only have one kid, I couldn't use that with mine. Okay, the longer I do this, the messier it gets, the more it's sticking to my hands. So, ugh. Now remember, we have to flatten these out before we put them in the oven. This is the part I am most apt to forget. Okay, that is just making a complete mess. I'm going to try to keep these in the cookie dough scoop. Okay, that's not my oven. That's just my washing machine letting me know that it's finished. If you're hearing a beeping noise. Y'all, look at that. That is ridiculous. Okay, I might have to borrow some dough from those other cookies over there. I don't know if I have enough to make 4 more, but I'm not opposed to borrowing dough from a different cookie sheet. I'm gonna have to get this off my hands. Ugh. I said I wasn't gonna mash it with my hands, but I guess I am. I don't like this. Too messy. think I like making the smaller cookies better, so I can, when I'm using a cookie dough scoop and I can just level it off with the side of the bowl, it works perfectly because I don't have to touch it. But I do not like getting it all over my hands. I feel like I'm taking it away from the cookies. Well, at least there's no cookie dough waste in the bowl, but it is sticking to my hands. Okay, that's bad. All right, I'm going to have to borrow cookie dough from the other cookies over there. These that were extra big. Okay, let me come back so you can see what I'm doing. These look like they're going to be super dry from the crumbly texture, but they're really not dry when you get them made. They're fabulous. Y'all, this was going to be just the best cookie video ever. It's not working out that way. What a mess. The only thing I'd do different next time when I make them is make them smaller instead of these big jumbo cookies, but they're just so good when they're that big. I probably won't change a thing. I'll probably just suffer through this ignorance again. All right, we'll try to rake some crumbs together here to make the last few cookies. All right, I'm going to move this close to the camera so you can see my hand when I'm making this. I'm going to take my hand and pat this down and just kind of shape them into round cookies. And they really don't look very appealing, even when you're doing it at this point. But for some reason, this works. But if you don't wet your hands, this will not work well. Maybe that's where all the moisture is coming from, is this water from the cup. Maybe that's the secret to it. I'm not sure. But it works. Okay, these last two are questionable here. I don't know what the issue is. They're just not wanting to come together. They'll probably be the best ones in the whole pan. Okay, try to get them as round as you can. If you have a silicone spatula like this, it's a lot easier to shape them the way you want, and it doesn't stick as badly to them. Right now my issue is there's oats all around each cookie, and I want it stuck to the cookie. Okay, this is actually what they're supposed to look like before they go in the oven. So, now you know. I'm going to turn the camera off to do this other pan because who knows how long it's going to take me. But I will, I'll turn it back on in just a bit. All right, so this is what our tray of cookies like. This was the little side one right here. No, I take that back. Yeah, maybe it was. I don't know. They both look pretty good right now. So here's all our dirty dishes that we're ready to wash, and we're going to put our cookies in the oven. Put that tray right there. There's my little helper over there. Tray number 2. All right. We are going to set this for about 10 minutes. And we wait. We'll be right back. Okay, our oven's going off. But instead of taking these cookies out, I'm turning the oven off, so turning the temperature off completely, and I'm going to leave them in there for 5 more minutes. So I'm going to set the timer for 5 minutes. And we'll be back. Now the reason we turn the oven off and left these in the oven is because I don't want to necessarily continue baking them at a high temperature, but I want them to set up. So this is what happened last time I made them, so I'm just following suit. And these look just as pretty as they did last time. So, these smell so incredibly good. All right, there you have it, folks. Oatmeal raisin cookies. And it doesn't take that long to make. You probably have the ingredients in your pantry. Go get some raisins. Be brave. Be brave. Just do this. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to sharing something again with you real soon. Let me know if you try these. Bye. Okay, this is Saturday. It has been a long day. So, yeah, it is Saturday afternoon, about 5:30. I'm heating up dinner right now. We've been gone most of the day. And remember this brown sugar? It's actually soft. So that was Wednesday. What should I say? It's been 3 days. Take my little sad-looking roll out of here. Although, that would be delicious because it has some brown sugar on it. Get that out of the way. And I'm going to show you what this looks like. Remember it was hard as a rock? It is soft sugar now. So that little bitty roll. Now I did lay the bag on its side just because, you know, science tells me the moisture wouldn't get to the bottom of the bag, but it did. It went all the way to the bottom. There's still a little bit in the bottom that's kind of in a clump, but it's not hard. It's actually kind of crumbly like that. So if you have brown sugar that has gone literally, I mean, this felt like a brick the other day. I opened it up. There was no way I could even scrape anything off of it. So if you have brown sugar that has gone hard as a rock, just put a piece of bread in there. It doesn't even really matter. Could be a biscuit, could be a piece of light bread, could be a little roll that I made. I made some. This looks like a crescent roll, but it's just dough. I rolled into a crescent shape. But anyway, just so you know, there's life after death for brown sugar. So that's it. Thanks, guys. Bye.